This will be one of those conversations that there may be more disagreement among Kendall and I, which is okay because we welcome confrontation. This is one of those topics that no matter what we say, people are going to hate what we say about it.
Yeah. The goal is to be healthy and to be happy as well.
Mhm.
Like, we want to enjoy eating. The goal is to find overall balance in life.
Have you ever known anybody who had a protein deficiency?
When we're talking about getting good grains in your body, the best way to do it is to make it at home yourself.
What I do agree with is that the government ruins anything it touches.
Welcome to the No Bushel Podcast, everybody. We are your hosts, Big Ben and the Burning Bushman. We are excited to get into a little bit different topic today than kind of what we've been used to talking about in the past so far. But Ben, what are we getting ourselves into?
Today we're going to be talking about the new 2025 Dietary Guidelines from the United States of America, which have been a topic, and don't know if many of you follow that or not. This will be one of those conversations that there may be more disagreement among Kendall and I, which is okay because we welcome confrontation.
That's right.
Not confrontation, but we also want to speak our mind openly and clearly. And we're going to try to talk about some of the good, the bad, the ugly, as it relates to, because this is a faith-based channel too, maybe also how it relates to our dietary patterns within the church too. So
like and subscribe,
Yes.
and buckle up. We'll see what we get into today. So let's maybe start off with what the new dietary recommendations are, and it was just announced in January, correct? If I'm wrong, it's only been out for a couple of months now.
It was late 2025, but it was the 2025 guidelines.
Okay.
So
they
update them every 5 years, I think.
The easiest way to think of it is take what you already thought of the food pyramid and just flip it upside down. In my opinion, that's kind of generically. Obviously, there's going to be some more nuanced approach to it, but they are taking a lot of the things that were at the top and reversing that order in a lot of different ways.
Which, this is one of those topics that no matter what we say, people are going to hate what we say about it.
Yeah.
Because people have strong opinions about this type of thing. So don't hate us, okay? Some of you are going to be Team Kendall today. Some of you, very few of you, are going to be Team Ben today.
At least you recognize it.
But at least, be willing to hear different points of view.
Yeah.
And if it makes you uncomfortable, lean into that a little bit. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. Why does it make you feel uncomfortable? Is there any truth to what's being said, or are we holding to firm assumptions that may be untrue? I know my views on diet have changed tremendously over the last several years. And so let me also be very fully transparent in my own personal dietary patterns, because I think it's important that people know where we come from. But for the past, it's probably been 4 years now, I eat a very plant-strong diet. Essentially what I would say is I don't like the term vegan because vegan has a lot of other connotations to it that I don't necessarily subscribe to, but I eat very, very little animal products. It's not that I will never eat animal products, but I eat very few. Try to focus in on a whole food plant-based diet is my premier preferred diet. And so wide variety of fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, all of the above.
Yeah. And I am quite the opposite. So there's a difference there. I tend to be your typical meat eater. I like my meat, and so it's hard for me to accept a different style. And I know you grew up eating meat and whatnot, and so this has been a recent change, like you said, within the last couple of years, and for you guys, it's been very beneficial, and I know we'll probably get into it a little bit more about kind of your why you guys made that change, and um, I think what I have learned as you guys have just from the outside looking in to what you and your family have done, um, it is a reminder that not everything has to be the same for everybody else, right?
Mhm.
And we've kind of talked about that same principle in a lot of different things on our podcast so far. But that just because you live your life one way doesn't mean I can't live my life a different way, and doesn't mean that we're both right or wrong. It's what's good for us, and as long as we're living by good, wholesome principles in general, then we can enjoy that and appreciate each other's lifestyle and choices.
Absolutely, and even though that's the way that I eat, I also believe that people can be very healthy on a wide variety of diets.
Yeah.
In fact, the fact that we have so much butting heads over what to eat tells us that some people are doing very well in lots of different
Yeah.
ways of eating. And so, from a strictly health standpoint, if health is your primary motive, the body's amazing. God made our bodies to be able to run on a whole lot of different types of things, and some of the nuance of longevity and what's going to help you live the longest or do this, and like um, while I do believe that there are some benefits to the way that I eat in that regard, I mean, like the biggest difference. I mean, like how big of a difference is? I mean, like you get a couple extra years, like you're dealing with nuances here
Sure.
that are that maybe we sometimes make bigger than what they actually need to be. So going back to the flipping on the head. So
Yeah.
in my view, and when it comes to when the dietary guidelines came out, there is we can view this at the macro level, the micro level, the individual level. Like there's a wide
Mhm.
range of ways that we can view this, and there are some things that I think are really good, some things that I think could be a little bit better. The actual guidelines themselves, as they've been taught to us by the people at the tops of
Mhm.
organizations, Robert F. Kennedy, is this idea that we've just flipped it on the head. There's been a huge emphasis on protein. In fact, the recommendation basically doubled the prior recommendation for protein.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of like where they leave it at, I feel like. Um, no, that's not right. They also emphasize real food. Just eat real
Yep.
food. That's where I love that emphasis.
Mhm.
Um,
I think that is more in line with your diet specifically. Is it is more real when we say real food, whole foods, right? Your plant based whole foods that are not. Um,
highly
um,
processed.
Thank you. I was
Yeah.
thinking produced process is the right word that
Yeah.
I was looking for.
And so that's the side of the new dietary guidelines that I love is the emphasis that really the biggest culprit of being unhealthy in America is the highly processed foods. And I think
Yeah.
we can all kind of get behind that.
Very few people will argue against that
Yes,
point, I think.
exactly. So now you can like us for a little bit as we bash on highly processed foods.
I think one of the other specifically big changes in this is the de-emphasis on grains. When you look at the previous food pyramid, grains was like the biggest section, right, at the bottom, and you're supposed to have a ton of it. And now it has de-emphasized that to where, like you said, proteins and your whole foods, your fruits and veggies are should be the majority of what you put on your plate, um, and and specific grains too, not just have more grain, but have your whole wheat grains.
So this is where I'm going to push back a little bit
Yeah.
on the guidelines and healthfulness. Okay. So first off, they have cited the old guidelines
Mhm.
all over the place. And I think it's really kind of funny because the guidelines that they cite, it's true that in the general psyche of Americans, for whatever reason, at least those our age, we all go back to the 90s. And the
Yeah.
guidelines that they like to pick on and bully
Mhm.
are the guidelines, I think it's 1990 to 1995. which is the pyramid. But they've actually gone away from the pyramid for a long time,
Yeah.
and they've had other things. They've had different dietary guidelines
Like, more
since
recently, it's been,
1990.
like, your plate,
My
right?
plate,
Like,
yeah, .org.
percentages of your plate that you put on.
And where I also take issue is they bash the old guidelines as if the guidelines themselves were utterly wrong.
Mhm.
And I don't actually always I don't necessarily agree with that. What I do agree with is that the government ruins anything it touches. And so when the government says, let's emphasize grains, and they try to make people eat more grains, well,
Mhm.
then where did all of our highly processed food come from? I think
A
it,
lot. Yeah.
while the guidelines initially might have been promoting more whole grains and
Mhm.
real things, it allowed for systems that came into play that created all of the highly processed carbs that we
Yep.
eat on a regular daily basis these days.
You bring up a good point because oftentimes, like, when I go to the store and I get a loaf of bread, um, which before having kids, I was like, I'm for sure getting white bread because I love white bread, and knowing that it's not the best for you, but I was like, I don't like white bread. Now that I've got kids, I'm like, I need to be healthier and my kids need to be healthier, so we're gonna get them white wheat bread. And the more that I've learned about it, the wheat bread that you get at the grocery store, just your standard wheat bread, is just about as bad for you as the white bread is as well. It's just as processed as everything else. So when we were talking about getting like good grains in your body, the best way to do it is to make it at home yourself. Now, obviously, that's not as widespread availability to be able to do that, but
So I actually went, this was funny. So I went home the other day and my whole family was gone. I didn't know where they were. They ended up being out practicing somewhere and they had set a crock pot out and we make all of our own freshly ground whole wheat bread at home.
Mhm.
And it's awesome. I love it. But they'd made soup. I saw that they had made soup and they were going to get home kind of late. So I wanted to eat as soon as they got home. So I was looking, okay, let me get some bread out because if you're going to eat soup, I like to have bread with my soup. And we make huge batches of bread. We'll do like 10 to 12 loaves at a time and then
Yeah.
freeze them, pre-slice them and freeze it. And then toast it when we want it for meals or other things. Anyway, I could see that no bread had, well, went to the freezer to get bread and we were totally we were on our last loaf. We had
Mhm.
less than half a loaf left of bread. So I was like, oh no, and I don't have time to make bread. So I looked to see where my family was. I was like, I've got timber in the store. Maybe I'll run and grab some bread. Well, it's been a long time since I bought bread. So I went to buy bread and I went to like the fresh bakery, like
Mhm.
where it's like fresh bread. And I was like, that'll be a healthier, fresher, it's like actually made
Yeah.
here instead of like the highly processed, Wonder Bread or whatnot. And and even the ones that were labeled whole wheat or multigrain or like
Mhm.
whatever, if you go and look at the first ingredient, unbleached white flour,
Yep.
it's just like,
Mhm.
come on, really? Um, because yeah, that is not ideal. And I feel like when those dietary guidelines, I know we've beat up those old dietary guidelines, but I actually think that in essence, they were not necessarily as bad as what we might make them out to be, but that
Sure.
through the process of government saying you have to eat this way, then people figured out how can we make it really cheap and how can we
Right.
use all these things and to make it so we can
Mm.
make money on it.
Through that process, you end up losing out on a lot of the nutrients, which is
Yeah,
the key of
yeah.
healthy living, right? Having that nutrient.
Which kind of gets to my biggest issue with the new guidelines. So I think that the pyramid. So if you look at the actual new pyramid, where they
Mhm.
kind of flipped it upside down, it makes me wonder. Okay, they flipped it upside down. They say we're going to reduce grains, and if you do eat grains, make them whole grains. I guess I feel like what the government did was they said, okay, we've got this bad issue. We've done this, and so we're going to overcompensate the
Mhm.
other way and
Sure.
say grains are bad. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And by doing that, that they're hoping to like overcompensate. And I don't like the overcompensation. I feel like they should just make it a square and say whole grains are good.
Sure.
Because really, in my mind, what is good is variety of food and whole food.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to actually say, well, whole grains and that whole grains are like, you should limit those. That just, to me, is kind of bogus, especially from a Latter-day Saint viewpoint, coming from a word of wisdom that says that grain is the staff of life. Like, to me, staff of life
Yeah.
shouldn't be the minimized portion. That's just my
Yeah, if you want to get real spiritual doctrinal here, we can tie in Christ as the bread of life, right? And you should
exactly
have as
right.
much bread as you possibly can get, right? So if if that's the case, there's another tie in
There you
to
go.
how you let the government do anything, and even that takes away your faith in religion.
Which why do I think that they're overcompensating? Because they wanted the image of that
Mm-hmm.
to make people get away from the high carb
Yeah.
stuff, which is maybe not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually look at the verbiage, okay, so get away from the picture and you just look at the verbiage, okay, it tells us that whole grains, it recommends 2 to 4 servings of whole grain a day.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Previously, it was like 11, so like 6 to. I forget what was it before? Do you remember?
I'm not sure, but that's the same. It recommends 2 servings of fruit and 3 servings of vegetables. And so like,
Like the same
it's
amount
the
as
same
everything
amount,
else.
right? So now we say, well, okay, it's the same amount, and yet it's at the bottom of
Mhm.
the diagram, which I just think is kind of funny.
So here's a question for you that we we don't have to get into too
No,
much
it's okay.
today, but something that's always confused me is servings. I've never understood servings. They say 2 to 3 servings of bread or grain, and then 2 to 3, or
Uh,
sometimes it's like 5 servings of something. Like, so am I supposed to eat 5 times a day? Like, is it 5 separate meals, or like what if I'm eating 5 servings, but you recommend 3 meals a day, then why don't you just split that into 3 servings? And I anyway, that's a side tangent for
it's a good
something
question.
else. I've never
I don't have
understood
the
the whole
answer for you.
serving thing. It just doesn't make sense to me.
But it seems like if I really think it's just a mental thing. It's just like, oh, people understand what a serving is.
Right.
They put it on their plate. It's a serving. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Same thing. So like three servings of dairy. It
Mhm.
says, right. So like it has an equal proportion of
But they
all of
put that
this.
picture out there, and it gives off the impression that you shouldn't be having any of
Yeah.
it, or hardly at all. So one of the things for me that I think I see a little bit of what the this new recommendation is supposed to be doing, and I think the main focus of it is to move away from the highly processed foods, and not that processed foods have ever been part of the food
No.
recommendation, but I think that because of the grain and that processed system that we have in America specifically, um, I think that is their goal, is to get away from processed foods without saying it outright.
Uh-huh.
And which, again, like we said at the beginning, I don't know that anybody will argue that processed foods are healthy for you. Um, it's the Pandora's box of what's what's more convenient and easy versus what's healthy and better for you. And it's way easier to go get a pack of mac and cheese or ramen noodles than to, you know, grind up your own and make your own noodles and have a healthy meal that way, right?
Which is really probably the biggest thing impairing people from eating healthy, I think,
Mhm.
is that we've become so reliant upon quick and easy and fast food
Yeah,
that we don't even have the tools in our home
to make our own.
home process
Yeah.
things or to cook in meaningful ways. And so, yeah, if we could, we say real food, but then people are like,
What is real food?
how do you just eat real food? Am I just
Right.
going to eat raw stuff all the time? Like, no, we're
Mhm.
not saying you need to eat everything raw. Like,
Mhm.
but if you've never been taught And we have a whole generation of people that never learned how to cook.
Yeah.
They had a microwave and their
Mhm.
mac and cheese. What's the little?
Ramen?
I used to love no the little mac and cheese microwavable ones. I used to love those Kraft macaroni and cheese, but you can microwave it.
Oh,
It's just like in its own little cup.
I've never had the microwave
Yeah.
ones. Oh, you had it good.
Oh, I did. I did. We got the good stuff growing up.
You must have had Gushers in your lunchbox
Oh,
on
I did.
lunch.
I did.
Yeah, you were one of those kids.
That's why I'm so strict now, because I saw the effect.
um, one thought that I just had as we were talking about that is, and maybe this is part of the emphasis on the proteins, fruits, and vegetables, is those are much easier to have in your home now because you don't really have to make protein. Like you go buy an egg or you go buy your steak or you buy the chicken and you can cook it up however you want, but you don't have to like process grain and make your own wheat to make bread. Whereas you can just go buy your proteins and your fruits and veggies and just fry them up or cook them up on the grill or whatever, and it's a little bit easier. I don't know if that's
It, it,
it's
it's
just a thought that I had as
it's probably true that people are more familiar with how to do that than how to grind their own wheat.
um,
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid point.
and there are some barriers from a financial standpoint, like um, a wheat grinder is not necessarily a cheap thing to get. It's not like overly expensive either. But and how many appliances do you need in your kitchen so that you can take care of all of
Well,
these different things, right?
true. Although protein tends to be, at least, I mean, meat tends to be pretty expensive.
Meat itself can
Yeah.
be
So,
expensive.
I mean,
Yeah,
take your trade off, I
yeah.
guess.
There's pros and
Yeah.
cons to both sides of the argument for sure.
Which then, how you just said it, where they, emphasizing meat and vegetables and fruits. Like, to me, I don't see them emphasizing the fruits and vegetables other than saying whole food,
Hmm.
right? Like they say, yes, meat
Yeah.
and whole food. and to me, it's just a little bit strange that they're seem hyper focused on the protein. So, and once again, like we might disagree on this. Um, so they doubled the recommendation for protein.
Hmm.
Have you ever known anybody who had a protein deficiency?
No, I've
Just
never
saying.
asked anybody
Just
either
ask.
if they had a protein.
I have never known anybody. It's like, what happens when you're protein deficient? What happens with extra protein that you have? You pee it
See,
out.
yeah, now you're getting into the
That's
scientific
okay.
stuff that
That's
I
okay.
don't have answers for. Um, I will say I think that there has been a societal cultural shift in the health world over the last couple of years towards more protein specifically. As I have been getting into just more healthy living and like exercise weights and working out and that kind of thing, there is a pretty high emphasis on protein, more so than I think what used to be. It was not necessarily always been protein, and so I wonder if that has had a little bit of an effect on like the cultural shifts and trends that more and more people are aware of that are playing a role in this new recommendation. Um, There I mean, and we can get into the benefits of protein because I think that the benefits there are really, really good if you're using it the right way. Now, if I just go take a cup like 5 scoops of protein powder and say, "I've got my protein for the day," I don't think that's what they're really getting at, right? You're trying to find some balance, like what you said earlier, having a good mix of all these different kinds of foods that you can get your proteins from, like, I don't need to eat just like 10 steaks a day to get my protein. I can get that protein from some of the vegetables and the meat and the poultry and all these other things. You want a good healthy balance of all of that.
And I think when we say protein, we just think meat, like just societally,
More
like
often than not,
most people
yeah.
will think like, oh, yeah, there's other proteins, but then they'll be like, oh, whoa, can you name another protein? Right. So um, my philosophy, which is probably a little bit different than others,
Mhm.
I know, and once again, people can kind of get onto different you had mentioned, I do think that the reason that protein is so pushed is because in social media and in other places, like, protein's been pushed,
Yeah.
and my personal view is it's really a marketing thing more than anything. You get your tag words, and then suddenly everyone wants the
I
tag
think
words
there's
or
plenty of
whatnot.
that going on for sure.
But my personal philosophy is that if you're eating wholesome food, and let's say you want to work out and get really strong and buff. Well, things will say, well, you got to eat so much protein so that
Mhm.
you can build that extra muscle. Well, what happens when you work out? You naturally want to eat more.
Mhm.
And if you're eating whole nutrient dense food, even if it's plant based nutrient dense food, you're going to eat more to make up for the protein that you need to get that. Because if you're eating I mean, uh, protein in it is in everything. In fact, most people are surprised to find out that per calorie, broccoli has more protein than meat does.
Mhm.
So you would have to eat a whole lot
You
because
have to eat a
there's not a
lot of
lot of
broccoli.
calories in broccoli. But most food has protein in it, um, and so the body can naturally regulate
Sure.
itself, um, as opposed to like, you know, my diet has very much become self-regulating. Like I don't watch what I eat. Like
Mhm.
I don't worry about this or that or like getting so much of this or so much of this. Like I just eat a variety of food.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so once again, everyone, different people can have different philosophies and they can be good, healthy philosophies. I enjoy the one I'm on right now. But
And I think that that's the main point of all of this is regardless of what your dietary philosophy is in life, if you're a meat eater or a plant eater or somewhere in between, the goal is to be healthy and and to be happy as well.
mhm,
Like we want to enjoy eating. If you can't be happy eating only plants, then don't eat only plants. If you can't be happy only eating meat, then don't eat only meat. Find something that works in between. I but the goal is to find overall balance in life, and that comes not just in our social and workplace, but in our own homes and our food and as well. And I think that that's really the the point of why we're having this discussion is
yeah,
just to promote healthy living. And we can talk about food all day. You should also be out. We should be exercising and working out.
absolutely.
Maybe you don't have to be in the gym ever 5 days a week, but finding some kind of good movement and having some good exercise promotes that healthy living. You can eat great all day long, and if you're just sitting on the couch watching TV all day long, also, then it's not gonna. You're gonna have other
There's
health
benefits to
problems in
everything.
that
Yeah,
sense, right? So you have to have a good balance of everything together. Doing really good in one aspect and not great in anything else, you're gonna have some problems with that too. So I think that it's important to emphasize that.
I do think though that, and once again, just my personal philosophy here. When so where what do you prioritize first, right?
Mhm.
And because you might have a strong desire to exercise, but if you never feel like exercising, you're not going to do it. Like if you feel
Yeah.
sick, right? And I actually think that this is one of the biggest issues, particularly with highly processed foods, is that when you eat highly processed foods, they really don't make you feel good. But when you prioritize whole, real, good food,
Mhm.
it is naturally um, while yes, you can gain benefits from exercising and sleeping
Yeah.
well and doing these other things, but for me, the critical one, like the one that sparks everything else, is core food. It's like a
Yeah.
high, you get a cheap car and you're fine putting the regular unleaded in, but if you get like a really fancy car and like you got to
Mhm.
use the special stuff to keep it
Yeah.
running nice, right? Like our bodies are designed to run on real food.
Mhm.
And if that's hijacked, then you're much less likely to exercise. You're much less likely to sleep well. You're much less likely to
Oh, that's
do
true.
these other things because you just don't feel good.
And if you ask anybody that's in the exercise world, they will tell you that your success comes from the kitchen, from the way that you eat. And so I think anybody that's serious about their health will recognize that what we're talking about today really does matter and makes a difference. And just to stand up for myself a little bit as the meat eater here. While you can, I, I would say, because often with your diet right now, you find that happiness and that success and the motivation through eating these good whole foods. And I agree that whole foods are definitely healthier. I also um, meat is a whole food. Like it's not
Mhm.
you can get processed meat, and the
Yeah.
processed meat stay away from because for the same reasons we've talked about. So for me, I find that joy in eating through good wholesome meat, and that can give me those proteins and nutrients. And lots of people, I think the majority of people do as well. So I'll stick up for us meat
Oh,
eaters a
that's
little
fine.
bit
That's
here,
fine.
but
On that front, so just in of note, because most Americans are not aware,
hmm
um, if you look at the dietary guidelines by pretty much any other country in the world,
hmm
none of them emphasize meat. Meat can be a healthy part of
yeah,
a diet. I'm not saying that people should never eat meat. And in fact, in LDS theology and the Word of Wisdom, like we're specifically told not to command people not to eat meat, right? Like
right.
like meat is for the
It
use of
is
man.
for us.
Um, by the same token, you know, and I know people are gonna not like this, but
Just spit it
it
out.
does say sparingly,
Yep.
and so that's where I just take issue with the overemphasis in my mind of mostly protein and a little bit of everything else. It's like,
Yeah.
well, let's at least keep it balanced.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just-
See, but and here, just to be devil's
yeah,
advocate
yeah.
against you
Go
here
for it. Go for it.
for funsies, because if we say we're going to be balanced, then in your diet without any meat, there is no balance of the meat side of things because you're taking that portion of food out of the diet. Even though you're getting your proteins from other things,
Hmm.
the meat portion of it, I I guess we talk about that pendulum shift of like taking it from one way, and I'm not saying that.
And I'm totally open to people arguing, what does sparingly mean and
Yeah.
how often is sparingly. I tend to think of sparingly actually more in terms of sparing the life um, of a sentient being. Uh, that um, and so you can be sparing in little, or you can be sparing
Mhm.
in I don't have to kill something to eat,
Sure.
and I can be very healthy without killing that thing. And so if I
Mhm.
can, then I'm happy to choose that. Once again, that's not to say that balance can be bad. I
Yeah.
think I think there can be
Yeah.
a balance, and we do eat meat. So I'm not a 100%
Yeah.
no meat,
I I
but it is
I know
much less.
when we get together for Sunday dinners and my family brings the meat over, there are a couple of the pet children that are
They
overly
like their meat.
excited
Yes,
for
that's true.
the Bushmans to come over for dinner because we bring a little extra of that red meat protein over. It's kind of funny to watch
I have one or
that
two
dynamic.
particularly that
We're
do
pretty
like that.
excited to see that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, eh, everything in moderation, and we can agree and disagree on the applications, which we've talked a lot about that on
Hmm.
our podcast, right? The
Yep.
the applications of the rules and doctrines and teachings and your overall principles and lifestyle.
And based on your life situation and the seasons of your
Mhm.
life, you may ebb and flow from those
Yeah.
how strict you are here or how tight you are here, and what the Lord emphasizes to you at whatever season of life you're in, and that's totally fine. And that's why we need to love. As we have this conversation, like for purposes of the conversation, I like to state my point of view.
Hmm.
I have no judgment on others for how they choose to eat and do things. I hope you will have no judgment of me as as you're viewing this. Um,
Who knows? Maybe everybody that watches is going to be on Team Ben, and
oh,
everybody will be
maybe so. Put it in the comments.
against Ken.
Well, otherwise,
Yeah. Anything else you want to bring up?
just one last little thing, right? Okay, so I just think it's this is going back to so at the on the picture, it's got like your red meat
Hmm.
there at the top, which means okay, and that's like
Yeah.
one of the highest priorities. But then in the text it says limit saturated fat, which I mean that
Right.
just seems a little bit like a contradiction to me.
Yeah.
So, granted, highly processed food is your biggest culprit, probably with saturated fat. So, saturated fat is, and I know in the social media realm, saturated fat is like it's like the new thing. It's like a good thing now instead of a bad thing. You guys can think whatever you want to think
Yeah,
on that.
you're
But
gonna have waves. Like every couple of years, there's a new found fad and diet, and
yep,
uh, it all comes back to the same thing: having
yeah,
a balanced lifestyle, right?
absolutely. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this discussion. We hope that you don't just listen, but that you really critically think and evaluate and adjust how you want to apply gospel principles
Hmm.
into your life. I think we would both invite you uh, to understand that the word of wisdom is the word of God, and regardless of what fads are going on, if you genuinely, prayerfully want to be healthier, and you genuinely get in the scriptures and you study the Lord's word and you ask Him specifically for how you can be healthier, I believe He will answer that prayer.
He will tell you for
He will
sure.
guide you to whatever it is it needs to be. And it might look very different from what I do. It might look very different from what He does, um, because the Lord knows best.
Yeah, amen to that. My last 2 cents here would be that uh, God gave us these amazing bodies. We have it is an incredible miracle just that we are here today. Like just who you are and where you've come from. We have these amazing this gift that God has given us of life, and He expects us to be good stewards over that gift. And so as we all struggle through life trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong and how to do what's best for ourselves and our families from all different aspects of life. The healthy living from a dietary, physical standpoint is just one aspect of that. But it plays a critical role in a lot of different areas, as you mentioned earlier, that if you can feel good about yourself, your health, and your physical nature, it will it will spill into all of the other aspects of your life and allow you to find a little bit more joy and happiness and confidence in yourself. So take care of your body, eat healthy, get out and go for a walk, do something do something good and healthy today, and invite others to do the same. Again, no judgment from us, and no judgment should come from you as you're sharing those thoughts and ideas with those. But we want to take care of those around us and encourage good healthy living. And like and subscribe again. Share this with others so that we can get a good positive message out. We're excited to be a part of what you guys listen to.
That's all for now. This is the No Bushel Podcast.